Welcome back, everybody. I want to cover another attribute here. Tonight we're just going to look briefly at the attribute of God's omnipresence. Omni meaning everywhere, and presence, his everywhere presence. And it's a special attribute of God, one that I just absolutely love. And yet there's more to it than you would think when you first consider that God is everywhere. So let me read from Jeremiah chapter 24, verse 23 and 24, and just listen to these verses. God is speaking. He says, "Am I a God at hand? Am I a God at hand, declares the Lord, and not far away? Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares the Lord?" And then he says this, "Do not I fill heaven and earth? Do I not fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord?" Special glimpse there into the existence of God. We've looked at a number of his attributes that are just mind-blowing. And even recently with omniscience and his wisdom, his omnipresence is a spectacular reality. He fills heaven and earth. I like that word, fill. It's a helpful word to have in your mind when you think of God's everywhere presence. I'll give you a definition of omnipresence. The omnipresence of God means that while God does not have size or spatial dimensions, he is, in fact, present at every point of space with his whole being. He's present at every point of space with his whole being. So another way to think of this is that God fills all the space that he creates. God fills all the space or the location that he creates. And I've got a couple trick questions for you here as you work through these questions. I want you to really begin by asking the question this: where was God before he created? And it's kind of a funny answer. Where was God before he created? And then, where is he now that he has created? What a fascinating thing to consider. So, God fills the space that he creates. So, omnipresence is God is everywhere present. Omnitemporality, or everywhere present in time. That is, God is every time present. And we looked at that in that he is the author of time, his infinitude. And so, few quotes here for us tonight. God is infinite. This means that his being knows no limits. Therefore, there can be no limit to his presence. He, in his infinitude, he surrounds the finite creation and contains it. There is no place beyond him for anything to be. There is no place where he is not, is another way to say that. In fact, we read most recently from Psalm 139 when King David is writing, "Where shall I go?" In 139 verses 7 through 10. "Where shall I flee? I can't escape you. I go to the highest place and you're there. I go to the depths of Sheol and behold, you are there. I go into the dark and it's not dark for you," right? These truths of God are glorious to us. And now there are some important things to discern in this. Pantheism or panentheism has a twisting of this. They believe that God is either creation itself or that God is in the creation such that he is of his creation. That the substance of God is in the rock or the tree or the plant. And as a result, you end up with people worshiping creation. And we know from Romans 1 that is insulting to God. To exchange the creation for the Creator and bow down and make images like birds or reptiles or creeping things, it's just offensive to God. Because God is not of his creation, although all that he creates he fills with his presence. So a key way to remember this is God is in his creation, but he is not of his creation. My uncle, Dr. Bruce Ware, said it this way: it makes eminent sense to me to understand God in himself apart from creation, as both non-spatial and non-temporal. But then to see that when God creates the heavens and the earth, creating necessarily then both space and time. So at the beginning, when God created location, he created a place. That is when time was created, space became into existence. He then fills the creation that he has made. So we rightly speak of God as omnipresent, meaning that God is really here and everywhere present, while he is in himself apart from creation, being non-spatial. So it's important to remember this. For instance, in John 4:24, when Jesus was engaging the woman at the well, he said, God is spirit, and those who worship him worship in spirit and in truth. And so one of the things we understand from the scope of Scripture is that God is spirit. He is a spirit, not just a spirit. He is spirit, which means he doesn't take up space. He doesn't have spatial dimensions. And it's not good for us to think in those terms. We need to remember that God does not take up location in that, but that he creates the location of all that is. One of the things that jumps out when you consider that God is everywhere present is that there is really no way to exist or to go through life where you are not in full view of this great and glorious God. Now, that is a wonderful thing and comforting thing, but it's also a tremendous accountability for us. R.C. Sproul, I remember years ago, helped me understand this term, Coram Deo. It's a Latin phrase that means before the face, or before the face of God. And he called us to live Coram Deo, as if God is there and he's holding our face, and we are just beholding him face to face. That is the way we are called to live our lives, before his face, because it really is true. Everything we do, at every point, in every moment, in every place, is before the face of God. There is no hiding from him. So this is how he says it. To live in the presence of God, or Coram Deo, is to understand that whatever we are doing, and wherever we are doing it, we are acting under the gaze of God. He is omnipresent. There is no place so remote that we can escape his penetrating gaze. At the same time, this also involves recognizing that there is no higher goal than offering honor to God in each of those moments. Our lives are to be living sacrifices, oblations offered in a spirit of adoration and gratitude every moment of the day. Whether it be working your job on a 9 to 5, whether it be changing diapers on a Saturday morning, mowing the grass in the evening, or shoveling the driveway after a snowstorm, whatever it may be. All right, there's a way to live in honor of God, in view of God, in his presence, in a way that glorifies him in every moment that we get. So that's a special piece of the omnipresence of God. Lastly, I just want to encourage us to remember, with that in view then, we're reminded that all of life is sacred. There is no sacred secular divide. It's not like Sundays are the spiritual days, and then Mondays, well, that's just secular, that's our normal work day, we just do other things. No. Monday is as sacred as Sunday, because our lives unfold before His presence. Now, Sunday is a special, set-apart day of rest, but Monday is a commissioned, think of this, before the fall, a God-given, commissioned day of work. 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh you shall rest. And so, we live our lives in that reality, and it is a glorious reality. It reminds me of what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 10:31. He said it this way, whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. And so as we live our lives, Coram Deo, before His face, of a God who is omnipresent, He is everywhere present. He fills the space that He creates. May we be a people who honor Him, delight in Him, and are reminded when we're tempted to try to hide from Him or to live in a sinful way, that we are literally before His face, and He is watching, and He is a God of love, a God of grace, a God of mercy, but He is also a God who has called us to live holy lives in obedience to Him, and then to shine for the rest of the world to see. So, may you go that way and enjoy that this day that God has given you as you live before His face. Go in peace.